Coming up next, I've got a quick build for you, and then I'll review what I'm taking to Wonderfest. Well, hey guys, and welcome back to another Initiative Modeler. This is May of 2025, and just got back from a Caribbean cruise and had a lot of fun. In fact, that's why I'm wearing this shirt here. This is something that commemorates the splashdown of John Glenn near the Grand Turk Island. That was one of our stops there. And so I'm well rested, ready to get started here on my next project. And then after I'm done, as I mentioned in the intro, I'll be reviewing the other projects that I have in mind to take with me to Wonderfest. Now, as you know, I do have to hop on a plane to get there, and in the past I've had some mishaps with some of the projects that I've taken, so I've tried to keep that in mind as I've selected projects to take with me. I'm really trying to pick things that will not break as easily. So as much as I would love to bring the Battlestar Galactica landing bay that I built last year, I think a lot of people would love to see that in person. There's just no way that's going to hold up to traveling with it, so unfortunately I can't bring that. But as I said, I'll review these projects with you after we're done with this build. So what I have in mind to show you here is the third of the three projects I had in that box that I started the year off with. One included the Space 1999 laser tank, the other was the Thunder the Barbarian build, and this was the last project here. This is a figure of Underdog. Now, if you're not familiar with Underdog, he is an animated character from the 1960s. I did not watch the show in its first run, but I do recall occasionally having to stay home from school because I was sick, and the one thing I would do is turn on the TV to watch cartoons. And this one would pop up along with Tennessee Tuxedo and Rocky and Bullwinkle. Now, like Superman, he had a mild-mannered alter ego, but instead of a newspaper reporter, he was a guy who shined shoes on a street corner, and then he would turn into this amazing super dog that would have all kinds of adventures. Now, this sculpt was designed by UEL, and again, he did a great job capturing the likeness of the character. This is what he's supposed to look like when he's completed. And as you can see, he did design a display base, but I won't be using that. I'm going to instead create a display base of my own. So what I'm going to do is show you the parts that I printed of the characters. Really not a lot of parts to it, and then I will fill you in on what I have in mind to complete the display base. Okay, so as I said, not a lot of parts here. We've got a cape, and by the way, all these have been primed. And we have the character's face and head. We have the main body. Two hands, one with his super ring there, and then we've got the name here, the logo. Now, as I showed you there, he does come with a base, but I'm going to be creating my own here using Foamular, and the character is going to be standing on the base there with this canvas panel behind him. And what I plan on painting onto the canvas panel is this character here. His name is Simon Sinister, and this is one of the main villains. So I'm going to go ahead and create a busted brick wall, and through the opening is going to be Simon Sinister peeking through as Underdog has just busted through the wall to see what evil experiments he's been up to in his lab. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the character painted. Let's get started with that. Now, what I'm going to do first is apply a coating of liquid mask to the U. I do think it would be easier to paint white over a light gray versus the red that's going to be used for his suit. And I had the best success with liquid mask when applying several coats. And as I am applying those coats, I make sure that one is dry before applying the next. And I speed up the drying process by using a blow dryer with the setting on cool rather than warm. Next, it was time to apply the paint to his suit, and for this I used a mix of Monument Hobbies Pyrrol Red mixed with 2 drops of mahogany. I added in burnt umber to the mix for the shadows, and yellow for the highlights. And after that was done, I removed the liquid mask with a Q-tip. Then moved on to hand painting the U with Monument Hobbies Bold Titanium White, which was thin before applying several coats. Next, it was onto the cape, and I decided to paint the dark colors first. For the cape interior, I used a mix of Monument Hobbies Gray Blue mixed with a few drops of Payne's Gray, and I added in more of Payne's Gray for the shadows. The base color of the outside of the cape was Monument Hobbies Blue, and I added in their sky blue for the highlights. After it was all dry, I sprayed on a very light coat of gloss. So it's time now to move on to the figure's head and hands, and for the base color, I chose a mix of Vallejo's Pale Flesh, a drop of Sunny Skin Tone, mixed with a few drops of MSP's Barbarian Flesh. The nose and ears, of course, had to be painted black, and for this I used Monument Hobbies Coal Black. I've really become a big fan of Monument Hobbies paints as I rarely experience problems with them. Not only are they easy to work with when airbrushing, but I've noticed, especially with a lot of their darker colors, that when I add a drop of thinner, they brush on very evenly, leaving behind little to no brush strokes. And here's how the head turned out, along with the hands. I just love the attention to detail. Just check out Underdog's Power Ring. Okay, well now that the figure is complete, we're going to move on to the display base. So the first thing I need to do is to create the wall that's been busted through by Underdog, and what you see here is just a test run. And this is a method in which we'll be using Foamular along with an X-Acto knife and a clay sculpting tool to create the pattern of stacked bricks. So the method is something I found on YouTube. It was done on a channel called Vasco Toys, and it's the same method I used to create the brick pieces for my Haunted Mansion Book Nook that I did last Halloween. So as I did with my Book Nook video, I'll post a link to these videos down below. They are worth watching if you want to create this type of simulated brick wall. And so what I'm going to do here is first start by using my X-Acto knife to carve in the horizontal lines, and then I'll create the vertical lines that will end up giving us the look of stacked bricks. Well, now that the wall is completed as well as the sidewalk, I'm ready to show you now what's going to go onto the canvas panel. So the brick wall is going to glue onto the panel like this, and inside this opening I'm going to be drawing in and painting in these figures. So these are the characters of Simon Bar Sinister and Cad, his assistant. And you can see they are shocked and surprised as Underdog has busted through the wall of their lab. And so I was able to find images of the characters online. I use those as a guide to help draw these out. And of course I drew out an outline prior to that of the opening in the wall. And so what I'm going to do here is paint the canvas panel with that light gray color that I used for the sidewalk prior to tracing in and painting in the characters. So I'll use this carbon paper here to transfer the drawing onto the canvas panel. And by the way, prior to painting, it's really important that you spray on a fixative to hold in place whatever it is you're using to trace or draw with. And so I used Crayon workable fixative for this. And of course the reason is to prevent it from smearing when painting. So next up here is the painting process, and for this I am using acrylics from Winston & Newton. These are paints that I use for painting on canvas, and of course I've sped up the video here for you. Once the colors were dried, I used a black paint pen to draw on the outlines, and when this was dry, I brushed on some gloss varnish. So this is the completed painting now, and as you can see I added a gloss coat. As with most things, it makes the colors pop and adds a nice finish. And as you can see, I also added in some debris here down at the bottom. So the brick wall is going to fit right over this, and so I think that's going to turn out great. And it's going to join up with the sidewalk that I've created like this. And Underdog will be standing right here. As you can see, I've made some extra bricks and some debris here to add in around Underdog. And both the backdrop and Underdog will be attached to the sidewalk with magnets, and that way it'll make it easier to be able to disassemble it, put it back together, so I can pack it for travel. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put everything together and show you the completed project in just a second. Okay guys, well here is the completed Underdog diorama. This sculpt was designed by UEL and was printed at 85% of its intended size, making him over 4 inches in height, and his flowing cape gives him a width of a little over 5 inches. The figure itself was a pleasure to work with. Everything fit perfectly together with no adjustments needed. I used Monument Hobbies paints for the suit and Vallejo skin tones for the head and hands. As always, UAL did an outstanding job translating a classic 2D character into a fully dimensional sculpt. His ability to bring these designs to life in 3D never ceases to impress me. The base was a lot of fun to design, and this concept immediately came to mind upon seeing the figure on CG Trader. I followed the simulated brick wall and concrete sidewalk technique from Vasco Toys on YouTube, which worked beautifully. It's a simple method that doesn't require fancy supplies but delivers really convincing results. As you can see, I added broken bricks and debris to give the scene more character and depth. The painting was a lot of fun to do, and it provided a way to be able to feature a couple of other characters from the show. These included Simon Bar Sinister and his sidekick, Cad Lackey. I also love how they remain in 2D form while Underdog stands fully realized in 3 dimensions. It really captures the essence of the show in a unique way. All in all, I'm very happy with how this turned out, and I think it'll make a fun and distinctive entry at Wonderfest. Well, one thing I did want to show you are the magnets that I use now to attach the backdrop as well as Underdog to the base. Let's take a look at that. You can see I've got magnets. These are neodymium magnets I found at a local hardware store attached to the painting, and these are the magnets attached to Underdog's feet. So with regard to the figure now, I also don't have his head and cape glued into place. Actually, there's enough tension there holding things in place that I think I'm going to refrain from gluing. Again, all of this is to make everything much more transportable. Well, I know this probably wasn't the most exciting project to follow along, but hopefully you found some stuff of interest there. And of course, if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me here on my YouTube channel or at illustratormodeler@gmail.com. Well, let me take a few minutes here to go over the projects that I will be taking with me here to Wonderfest. I have them here on the bench. Let's take a quick look. So starting from left to right, I have the Buck Rogers Hawk Ship. And I actually built this last year to take to Wonderfest, but this was done before we had finalized our trip to Spain. So of course I never got a chance to take it there. But since I am going this year, I'm going to go ahead and take this with me. And the ship is flat and compact, as you can see. And the claws are detachable since they're hooked on with magnets. So it should be pretty simple and easy to pack this. And next I have the Shuttlecraft Galileo 7 diorama that I constructed last December. This, of course, features the Galileo on the planet Taurus 2, along with that creature that's ready to slam that big boulder onto the shuttle. And this also I made with the intention to transport, because the backdrop painting there is hooked on with magnets as well. And both the creature and the shuttlecraft are not attached to the base. And of course, here is that Space 1999 diorama with the laser tank, and both the tank and the forklift are not attached to the base, so they can be packed separately. And the people are glued on and held into place, but just by a smidge of glue, so if they do become dislodged, it will be easy to put them back on. Now, one thing I will be changing about this diorama is the figure of Maya. And you might recall that all of these figures here are just generic figures that were painted with the Space 1999 uniforms and colors. And this one here stood in for Maya. And I want to send a big thank you to a modeler named Trevor Guyot, who sent me STL files for a Maya figure. In fact, here's a picture of the file. And as you can see, she is wearing the uniform we most saw her in on the show, which consists of the skirt and boots. And she even sports that particular hairstyle. So I'll be printing her up shortly here. And then, of course, there is the Underdog diorama, which I just finished. Now, one thing I don't have assembled here is and you can see the display base for the Thunder the Barbarian diorama. You can see the figures there are all packed up. I did leave them unattached to the base. The slots that they are held in really do a good job holding the figures in place, so I'll be able to pack all that separately. The one thing I will be gluing on, however, is the nameplate. I just haven't gotten around to that yet. Well, speaking of the 50th anniversary of Space 1999, I'm really excited about that. As you can see, excited enough to where I got myself a uniform. This was designed by Charles Gordon, who did a great job designing my commander's uniform here. I also built a new comm lock with a heftier belt clip there for cosplay so it doesn't fall off, and also put my picture here on this side. So if you're wondering how many cosplay costumes or uniforms I have, my wife will tell you, don't even ask. There's too many of them. I understand now they're going to be doing a screening of the new Eagle documentary, which they've been working on over the last couple years, so definitely look forward to seeing that and plan on wearing this uniform to that screening. And also have planned a couple of interviews for you, including Keith from Cosmic Scale Models. He was there for the first time last year at Wonderfest. Of course, I wasn't there at that show, so I'm definitely looking forward to meeting him at the show this year. And so along with that interview, I do plan on doing a couple others for you. I just have to pin those down. So whether or not I'll be able to post anything from the show just kind of depends. I do plan on bringing my laptop to the show. I'm just not sure I'll have enough time to put anything together, but certainly we'll have time when I get back from the show. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really do appreciate it, and I will then see you in the next video. Take care.